Tenzin Dorjee Majuna Gitadani, Singing Tangi Tondo, Tojalana Mepayanda, Zobi Sanji, Kumbarum, which Kenny Tobra Shago, Tobra Shavi, Cheto, and which you remember Jesenia, Becono, Shangi, Simchi, say Simbegon and Semper Show.
We must strive to accomplish complete enlightenment for the sake of liberating infinite, kind, mother sentient beings with that kind of altruistic motivation, or what we call bodhicitta motivation, that we should all participate in this teaching.
No. That those something. When Gulon Tangdisane, any Sinji Tangi to Sanji Kobatavashi, Chedo, Sinji Tangi, Magin Sinji Tangi, Dungi Tangi, Dungi Jury Tangi, the Trani, Sanji Gombal Gogundo, the Chedo, Chudu Wins and Sang Yoravas, Sonsa, that they turned out in some time to do 2 years and miss some Congress. To reverse and do some thunders.
So we have just cultivated the altruistic motivation, seeking complete enlightenment or Buddhahood for the sake of all other sentient beings. Basically, what we are stating in this altruistic motivation is this, that we would like to help sentient beings to be free from the state of suffering and the causes of suffering for good, and we want them to be in the state of complete enlightenment. So that is the kind of motivation that we have just cultivated, and that we always try to cultivate as we engage in positive action and spiritual practice. Now the next thing, that kind of logically follows from that idea of the motivation is, do I have the abilities to do that? In other words, like, can I become a complete enlightened being for the sake of all other sentient beings? Do I have the abilities, or not?
No. That carries Togasego Amaris, Togasago Amaris, the Nikabla, sinking lyric manda among boyer, Tahana Yiki, Kanina, Hirilina, Hirita, Manda among boyers, Yenaya, Tatu, the any Samalo, showing Kunzi, Yunti Kundi, Yungi Yaris, that you have the Hugos.
I don't think we need to doubt about, the potentiality to become a complete enlightened person or being. When I say ours, I mean, as a matter of fact, all sentient beings. Yes, of course, when we look at each other, or all sentient beings, we know that we are in different situations, and we carry different predispositions, and we have many different levels of intelligence and so on. But these are all at shall we say more of at a different level. But if we go deeper down inside us, below all this sort of differences we find between ourselves, deep down we all have the same potentiality to become a complete enlightened being. Yes, we are in different forms and different situations right now, but deep down we have the same potentiality to become a complete enlightened being eventually.
Sentient beings is that that is Rajas, Michanga Son of Koja Maras. Dina Kares, Lai, Lama, that me, or Tahana is sentient. Tindo yore, ni da yore nyawarita. At the Samaluta Kanje, so you chinchil some majibaina. That's in you chagores.
So, as we talk about how all sentient beings have the potentiality to become complete enlightened beings, I think it's important for us also to understand what do we mean by sentient beings, or in Tibetan sentient. Sentient beings are not just limited to only human beings like ourselves. We are part of the sentient beings, but there are many other forms of life and beings. And when we look within secular existence, as we often talk about different types of beings, as a matter of fact, 6 types of sentient beings, or categories, broad. We have, of course, divine beings, or the celestial beings, or gods, little g, gods. And we have, demigods, or the asuras. And we have, ourselves, as almost human beings. We have hell beings, or beings in the hells. We have hungry ghosts, or predators. And we have animals. So all of us are, sentient beings. In other words, sentient being should be understood as any form of being that has what we call a mind or consciousness. So we all have the same right and ability to become Buddhas, one day. And now, because each of us has got in our state of mind what we call the seed of enlightenment, or Buddha nature.
Mid-dicking Shivaji, mid-dibba-chamber Shivaji, that me mamma don't tell mamma, and do saving. That and they get dibba-chamber in a depend Jebute, that Yala Yone, and then you might take Sanjik Savan the Savan the chain that takes and no call Yatayake, that Rava Kimbo Tagris.
So we literally, accept that every sentient being has within themselves a seed of enlightenment or Buddha nature. So that's why, every sentient being can become a complete enlightened being one day or eventually. So we mean that literally. Let's even think of a criminal. Who has taken so many lives, hundreds and thousands. Well, this person has created just unimaginable negativities or negative karmic actions, which he or she has to, pay for the bad karma, no doubt. So maybe this person will suffer for unimaginably long time in say hell or hellish state of existence. But when those negative karmas are purified, and when his or her seed of enlightenment is activated, it meets with, as we would say, favorable conditioning factors, then that person could be freed from hell or that state of suffering and can move towards or advance towards complete enlightenment.
So that tendeji kita ngaran chamal da sengi ten ani da chuju hibuji na da busi hibuji chang yin na ya da tenzu jingxie la da rigdele ngaran chol da sanji ya sig rigdele yin yo是应该有
So we have to recognize that every sentient being, no matter what our sizes are or shapes and forms are, as you have heard Geshe say, even the tiniest sentient being, or the insects in this case probably, do have the seed of enlightenment. And when we talk about the seed of enlightenment, or another term we use, Buddha nature, each of us has two types of Buddha nature, or each of us have Buddha nature has two dimensions or two aspects, if you will.
So that karresana the engineering siachista rangi neri siata ranga chamal sengi kishun kandeji na sokcha suyi ke semki yorwas siting ane tongba ni tel tongi tel ane rangi neri segres.
So let me explain very briefly the two dimensions of seed of enlightenment or Buddha nature. Each of us sentient beings, down to the smallest insects, have a dimension of Buddha nature that is recognized as or referred to as, here's the technical term, naturally abiding seed or a nature. And so this dimension of Buddha nature, in that each of us has got what is called mind, sem in Tibetan, and a mind is empty of inherent existence. In other words, our mind is characterized by emptiness or shunyata. So that shunyata or emptiness of our mind is a dimension of Buddha nature. It is referred to as naturally abiding Buddha nature.
Tayang semte ane rangi niri regu amas. Kare isana semje tengi kyunyi te ta rangi niri ta te noju amas.
We must not, consider mind and its emptiness as being identical, one and the same thing. They are not. We are not saying that our mind is naturally abiding Buddha nature. We are saying that emptiness of our mind is naturally abiding Buddha nature. So we got to really distinguish our mind from its emptiness.
That thing around us, that's thinking condition in any guess and sanjibi capsule, any more you say sanji go, more you say that Takwan Indian tattoo that the nature Takwan. So all
sentient beings have minds, and emptiness of our minds is what we call naturally abiding Buddha nature or Buddha seed. And when we eventually reach complete enlightened state of Buddhahood, this is where emptiness of our mind how should I say, it evolves into, or it transforms into rather what is called natural truth body of an enlightened being. In Sanskrit called Savabhaveka Kaya, or Ngo Niku in Tibetan. So emptiness of our mind eventually transforms into, or it arises into an enlightened body that is called a natural truth body. And this natural truth body is characterized by two types of purity, you will, because this natural truth body is pure of the two types of mental obscuration to nirvana or personal liberation, and obscuration to omniscient knowledge or wisdom.
The same Quran, the same day any and Jinju Chicks. That's same tell Jinju and the same tell and the Turbata, that Gomba the Samba Tandigani, change the Sani, 20 days, sign the Sunny, that you Zani, number 3 teaching on Juju. It is.
And the other dimension of our Buddha nature is our mind itself. Every sentient being has a mind, and that mind is what we call developable or developmental, if you want, Buddha nature. The developmental in the sense that it is something that develops, it can be enhanced. That's understanding. And so our mind is developable or developing Buddha nature in the sense that when we train our mind to different practices such as listening to teaching, contemplation, and meditation, through these methods or the practices, we can cultivate our mind. We can develop our mind to the extent that when we fulfill the two types of accumulation of merit and accumulation of wisdom or insight, then our mind eventually arises in form of wisdom truth body, another enlightened body, which is called Gyan Dharmakaya or Yishe Chugu in Tibetan. So now as you see, each of us has got two dimensions or two types of Buddha nature. We have emptiness of our mind, which is naturally abiding Buddha nature, and we have our mind, which is developable or developing, whichever better English version you prefer, Buddha nature.
That is and that indicates and so the Tangarazo, so subdivision Sieta, good thing you would tire the cheddar,
So we engage in purification practice, accumulation practice, basically to be able to activate, those, the dimensions of our Buddha nature, and so that we're able to eventually accomplish enlightened bodies.
That thing was condition. Marazo society said, Rancho so that's so strong. Senipe that Masinam do Senanipe that Nyamu but the Jango girls. This young Danny to chair the Tangara train Yata, Tesum Sheata, Gom Jeta, the Samalo, at that each race.
We must remember that listening to teaching, spiritual teaching or Dharma, accomplish the meaning of the teaching, meditating on Dharma, and all these activities or practices we engage in, these are basically ways or the means to purify our mind of delusions and other types of mental obscuration, and to accumulate merit and wisdom. So we must understand that the purpose of our engaging in study, contemplation, and meditation and other related spiritual practices is to be able to transform our mind, to be able to bring inner transformation. So we do purification practice, we do accumulation practice in order to bring about positive changes in our mind, or to transform our mind, positively. And as we purify our mind of delusions and other mental obscuration, or we could use the language, we want to destroy delusions in our mind, we must understand that by destroying delusions in our mind, we are not destroying our mind. Mind stays. As we purify negativities of the mind, mind becomes pure state. It does not get purified together with the stains or the negativities. So the important point I'm trying to make here is, as we purify our mind of delusions and negativities, what we get at the end, if you ask what would be the outcome, is a pure state of mind where we are able to experience the light nature of mind, clarity and luminosity of our mind. So that's important to understand. As we purify our mind of negativities and delusions, we are not, as you would say, throwing the baby with the water in the tub. We just have mind. We are not destroying the mind, or we are not knocking it out of existence. And we can understand that with ordinary examples, like when our clothes get dirty, we do our laundry. We can send our laundry for dry cleaning, whatever it is, case may be. But as we clean our clothes of the dirt or the stains, what we get back are the clean clothes. We don't do laundry to destroy our clothes. And that's the same thing. We do practice, we purify our mind of negativities and delusions, but the purpose is to be able to experience clarity and luminosity of mind, not to destroy the mind altogether. So at the beginning, it's very important for us to educate ourselves about spirituality or Dharma, because we have to have the Dharma information, Dharma knowledge, and understanding. So once we get the information, it's really important for us to analyze the information and the nature of realities. So investigation or analysis and research, if you want to use the word, is very important here. But once all these things are done, really perhaps the most important thing for us is to apply Dharma into our life. In other words, we have to practice Dharma or cultivate Dharma within our mind. I said that first we need to educate ourselves about Dharma, and the second we need to analyze or do investigation, and even I use the word research, but I want to really clarify what do I mean by research. Mean that we really want to have a careful investigation of the Dharma knowledge and the nature of realities. By research, I don't mean that go and read more books on the thing. Well, sometimes, yes, that is helpful, but it's not like doing sort of academic research, read a lot of books and then put things together and make a bibliography or the references here. So it's investigation into the nature of things, realities. Investigating, are we doing the things as Dharma teaches us to do? Do we understand what are the things to be abandoned? Are we doing that? Do we understand what are the things to be cultivated? Are we doing that? Do the Dharma principles accord with truths or the realities? So we apply in analysis and investigation in these matters, not so much into producing a research publication.
Well, that's in the way. That's in it. That should number of drinking in the same the left down to go yours. That in a garage, that thing do down. Got the doing it, that and take a pay when you donate and the villain journey. And it's so that me gain attention to initiate that, don't say how charge yours.
Of course, the practitioners are those who completely renounce worldly activities, and so they go up into the solitudes and the mountains for life, and they dedicate their lives completely into spiritual practice. And that's the best, of course, thing practitioners can do. But having said that, as we do the reality check with ourselves, we are caught up in the kind of situations and things that all of us are not able to do that, given the situation that if we stay up in the mountain, maybe, it doesn't work these days, completely, for or whatever the case may be. Just maybe perhaps the Geshe didn't say it, but just to humor it, maybe we need a permit to go to the mountains, It's a restricted area. I don't know. But Geshe didn't say that. But you see, there are situations in that it's not easy to into a solitude. We have to do a reality check. So we do as best as we can do our practice given the situations we find ourselves in.
Really, I chini. Real dengue kida they hale yamas. Real dengue chambal hale yamas. Without some real mumble dengue yamas. Uncle, those chini. Duba Jessica, that Dukan, ya Manzi con the bay, real Made con the get to some round the Gubita, Duba Yanesiaka, and the 20 was non 20 the summoning ever the somebody ever go.
Of course, we greatly admire meditators or the practitioners in solitudes and in the mountains and the caves and dedicating all their lives into spiritual practice, That is assuming that they are really in pure spiritual practice, and so that they are the best examples we have. But otherwise, simply going into the mountains and caves or solitude does not necessarily mean that one has become best kind of practitioners. And so before even one makes a decision to go into a mountainous region or the solitude, one has to accumulate, as we would say, both external and internal favorable conditions and resources. Okay, what are the things do I need to be able to maintain and carry on my practice, for a lifetime in a retreat situation or solitude? What are the internal conditions, all the knowledge, information, all the, the right state of mind, everything I need to be able to go into solitude. So all those things must be, as we say, right places before we go into, into solitude. Because being in a solitude or wilderness does not serve purpose, because if that's the case, then all the wild beasts and animals are all in the wilderness, and but they're not having anything special.
Gom general devil cargo ane that tambo Geshe Tsultim Gyeltsen ane tambo ne pe tende druva jaya kata chaland bakaresan ta theba mangu che go ta chue theba she thebe here de rangi she she the thebe here de rangi she na ta tel sanu tani ne sanju here de she she ta sanju thebe here de sanju here ni bote rangi le chanso na te gom jaya kata ane gom bi rangi she to gom chago res.
As Rinpoche or Manjusri Sri Lama Tsongkhapa states very clearly in his profound works and treatises, that first he says one must listen extensively to spiritual teachings or Dharma teachings. So he considers that's really very important. One must have Dharma knowledge, information sources. Otherwise, there's nothing really to do to put into practice. And the first thing first, we need to educate ourselves, of Dharma. We need to listen extensively to Dharma teachings so that that gives rise to what we call wisdom arising from listening to teachings. So once we have listened to many teachings and that wisdom has arisen, then the next thing is we have to contemplate the meanings of teachings. So we do repeated contemplation practices which would give rise to the wisdom arising from contemplation. That's another level of wisdom. So once we have that, then we could now, carry on with meditational practices, and that will give rise to high level wisdom, maybe wisdom arising from meditation. So that's why listening, contemplation, and meditation, they are very intimately correlated with each other, and as a matter of fact, the preceding factors give rise to the subsequent factors. There's kind of a cause and effect relationships, listening, contemplation, and meditation.
Ladum Trala Zavandas. Teva maybe gom Teva Tan may have a gom Javina, Tati call and Nang Topashia young Macaris and that Hako Yamarabas. Just they did soon that the little gone a Teva maybe somebody Ladum Trala Zavanda.
So realize masters have got this to say, as Geshe quoted the poetic lines from his memory. Basically, they say that those who are trying to do meditation without, listening to teachings, they are just like completely handicapped people who are trying to become rock climbers. If you don't have arms and anything, then you will try to be rock climber. That would be one, that would be a tremendous challenge. So without listening to teachings, really there is no understanding of Dharma, and without any understanding of Dharma, trying to do meditation is not going to work.
So ngaran samalo ngi pheyak che tang ngi jubin ngaran so samalo ani theba kang thu du she ta then so lo de chamba che ma tu pe ta mthi ye ji ta tambo kan ne she na ya ko ya ma ka ga thu ba de so kan thu ba de ani pe san ya pa tang ani telen dong de she an ta ga na yi ke ani she ba de sen nge ba sama ji ani tele ani palan she na ta ki da ya ko ngor ba ngaran samalo.
I think we all need to listen to Dharma teachings, especially which suit our predispositions and capacities. So if we listen to teachings that we are able to understand, and we can try to, contemplate the meaning of those teachings and try to meditate on those teachings, that would work much better rather than if we try to kind of jump into more sort of advanced kind of teaching levels that are above our heads. Then we won't be able to, there won't be much of a, benefit to ourselves. So until our abilities grow and our understandings grow, it's better for us to listen to teachings which we can handle, if you will, and go with those teachings, really contemplate those teachings, meditate on those, and then we progress to other levels. I think we must recognize the fact that all sentient beings have the seed of enlightenment or Buddha nature, due to which can all become Buddhas eventually. And that's really to be recognized so that we really develop appreciation and respect for all sentient beings. Yes, temporarily, as already said before, that we find ourselves in different situations and under different circumstances in samsara or single existence. Even as human beings, we all don't look same. We have different size and shapes and colors and speak different languages and different abilities and different circumstances. Compare ourselves to other forms of life, the hell beings and the hungry ghosts and the celestial beings and the demigods and all of that. We all look so different. We all speak so different languages and different things, but these are what we call temporary features of our sentient beings. As we change our lives from one form to another, these things change, but deep down, under all this, what we call temporary features or the characteristics of our lives in different life situations, all of us have what is called Buddha nature or seed of enlightenment, and that's really precious. So we need to recognize that, and that will help us to appreciate and respect each other.
Buddha nature is Sanje Yimbaki, the Kansa Kili, Sanje Yimbaki, the Yimbaki, Yibs on it, and some Panjamas. Buddha nature has come, Buddha and Mingi Tagu, and the Jula, and David Mintagis.
I think I also need to clarify what does Buddha nature mean, in the sense that, sometimes some people have a different understanding of Buddha nature because they assume that anybody who has a Buddha nature is a Buddha, and those who don't have, they are not Buddhas. Well, that's not what it is. Buddha nature is said, as I said, we have the potentiality or a seed in our mind, which is called Buddha nature. We are not Buddha yet, but this is the cause for us to become Buddha. So from a resultant point of view, if you look at this one cause, the cause is almost given the name after the result. So it is called nature. But when we say that we have Buddha nature, we don't necessarily mean that we are Buddhas already.
No, that's the interesting. That's the rank of the Hubat Samalo. Marayan Chin and around Samaloke. There's some of us township. Tangarantole, Lippy check in the Guri, Mugak of Dungi jealous of the Papa of the Takishi. There was the David Jutin so you had the Ranta Yin Samalo, Julie so you had the Santa. And then there is nothing he was.
So before returning to this wonderful text called a Miscellaneous Collection of Kadampa Geshes Advice, I thought, it is good to share, the things I shared about Buddha nature. I mean, not only for your sake, but my own sake. That basically we are all seeking the same thing. We are seeking lasting peace, happiness, of everything. We don't want any kind of pain, problem, suffering. We don't want to create causes of suffering. We want to create the causes of happiness and peace. And so all of these things are, relevant to all of us and very important to all of us. So it's important for us all to understand, these matters, if you will, and then apply ourselves accordingly, according to the principles of the realities and teachings.
Okay.
Malaki Tango the Tawa Sum the Sons of Roa, so that Tawa Yala Sum Soga, Tango Locha Maya, and Mitabo Competence.
Oh, yeah, okay. Tama Compet, Logi Tapdela Tambo United, Metaba Compet Kisari, Yamaro.
I should get again,
Sonas. Rank any same time, I was so a little Los Jones. That under there's a mind that me comes Los Jones say at the house around the same was as a mind pay. And then good and you send out and send you Los Jones second to once.
So just to recapitulate what we did last, we talked about the three main, what we call the main methods or the practices, and practices that, which constitute our summary practice to reach complete enlightened stage. And the of these main practices and methods is supplemented or augmented by three supplemental or secondary practices. So basically we have three main points and 9 sub-points. And so now we're going through each of them here. The three main points, just to remind you again, are what we call Lo Chongwa, as a training of the mind or mind training. And the Tsok explanation of merit and wisdom, and cultivating concentration or samadhi. So those are the three key points or the three main practices, and each of them, as I said, is supported by three secondary or supplement practices. We go back to the first key point, which is mind training. Well, mind training can be understood in a generic sense that we need to improve our state of mind. We need to think more positively. But in this particular context, the mind or mind training has a specific connotation or understanding. That is, we need to cultivate the two types of mind of enlightenment. Conventional mind of enlightenment or conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta or ultimate enlightenment. And so that's the understanding of mind training here. Now the mind training, can be done through many different practices, but there are three key supplemental practices here. And the number one is meditating on impermanence. That is important. So the first key practice is mind training or the mind, which is supported by three secondary practices. And the first one is meditating on impermanence. Second one is meditating on love and compassion. Third one is meditating on the two types of selflessness. So these are the three secondary or supplemental practices supporting, training of the mind. Now we will go back to meditation on impermanence. What does that mean?
je tamji je nane langbo je chol chuba yins ka da la je senji je yor wala
No.
di na ta nane ane langbo je chol chuba yins ane dushe tamji nane mata mi dushe cho yins ka na ane dos ka na te sunda.
If we look up into different versions of Lamrim texts or treatises, Lamrim is a Tibetan term which means stages of path, or even in Buddha's own original teachings contained in sutras, so much emphasis is given on cultivating awareness of impermanence. And as a matter of fact, our historical teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha himself said, and Geshe quoted the lines from his memory, he said that just as one could say that of all the footprints, those of the elephant are the biggest footprints. In the same way, of all types of awareness of impermanence is the powerful awareness.
That I did je tangi nan langbo je chol chuba yins ta kyo sungwe mare je tangi langbo je chol chuba yins langbo te ta ha sa langbo ma yin pe da langbo che ki nan ne ta she tab ke bo she tab ke ane pa se nga je chun je Quran do sak langa te le ane ma do kon le te ane do sa te pe da she tab sing yor chu me ta ta na ye da ta te me ta ane langa tan den do sa ye me tun jo ko she to thong to yor de te na yi yin skan so zan lang bo chen do sa je de te ni chim bi na ngara su te chim bi na ane langa du ja ten de ta ta na ye chi ye jin sing ji ho ye sa ta ten de le yu ma.
Okay, so let's go back to the metaphor or the example in Bible. He said, of all the footprints, literally, he said those of the elephants are best, not biggest actually. Chalk means best. So what does that mean, best? So that's what Geshe was trying to explain here. So this is like a particular brand of special elephants, not the ordinary we see here probably. And so those elephants have a special gift, you might say, that they could see all the risks and dangers and situations within 500 leagues or the yojanas before even they start their journey. Those elephants are standing here and they're going to make their journey to the other destination that covers the ground for, let's say, 500 leagues or yojanas. And this elephant could sense that sensory perception, what kind of a risk and the dangers are involved or not in their journey, even if they start their journey. So because of that knowledge, special gift, now if humans are traveling in that region for whatever reason, if you follow the footprints of these elephants, you will successfully make your journey because these elephants don't put themselves in dangers. Okay. So the example why the footprints of those elephants are the best of all the footprints.
That did not ane dishi tamji nani ma tabin dishi cho yin song. The Korean is an aranso tabin dishi yuan dambo chue le yu ya de ane ma tabi jing shi. Ane par chue le otoyan ama yu chue ta tang chama lo ta ma tabi dishi rangi le yu yin na di ne chue dambo chue ngo zo ya tang lam dun zha ya tang ane tarin de bu ya ta dun ro wa ta tabin dishi de res kan.
So just as, the footprints of those elephants are the best among footprints, the same way, awareness of impermanence is the best among different types of awareness.
Recognition of
so sometimes the Dorjee is translated as recognition, awareness, perception, mindfulness, and whatever else you can translate it into. Anyway, so the awareness of impermanence is the best of different types of awareness. And it's that. Maybe we wonder, if we really cultivate awareness of impermanence right from the beginning, initially it becomes such a positive motivating factor for us to engage into spirituality or dharma. When we have a really keen awareness of impermanence, it positively motivates us into spiritual practice. In the middle, when we have that keen awareness of impermanence, it helps to sustain and carry on our spiritual practices, so that the practice we do, it really becomes spiritual path for us to travel on, travel upon and go to our spiritual destination. And at the end, that awareness of impermanence is so powerful that it really helps to succeed in accomplishing the outcome or the results results. So it is in those regards, awareness or the recognition of impermanence is the best of all recognition or all awarenesses.
다가나이 다 근데 개천도 손자 나작던 백해져 잡아가 너 당부 중고 거디라니 토마테 따바까나요 그래서 가리에서는 동해 당부대 demba yiina 당부 동해 demba 송여러 봤어 다 동해 같을 치 yiina니 mata 동해 담에 세니 도시 yiina다 당부 최송자니 아니 mata 백송나 까나도 왔어.
Because of the importance of cultivating recognition or awareness of impermanence, our historical teacher Shakyamuni Buddha, he, touched upon it and explained it in his first teaching or the first sermon or the first turning of the wheel of Dharma. Buddha's first turning of the wheel of Dharma or teaching was on as we know on the Four Noble Truths. And of the four truths, the first truth he spoke about was the truth of suffering. And each truth is characterized by four attributes. And so he spoke truth of suffering first, and then he dealt with its characteristics, four attributes. First attribute he's talked about is suffering is impermanent. Suffering is misery. Suffering is emptiness. Suffering is selfless. And so therefore we can understand the importance of impermanence right from his first teaching.
남지 통과야 말 다 통화돼 통화돼 님이 까만나기레스 그래서 또 있어네 안도스네야 양을 리뷰자네 마다베 넘버 10 on the was.
So at the end of his life, Shakyamuni Buddha also concluded life teaching on impermanence. Before he decided to pass away into parinirvana, he invited the monastic communities, said, monks, you should take the opportunity to look really carefully at the body of Tathagata, because it is not often that you are able to see that, and it's a very rare situation. And he invited his monastic communities to look carefully at his body before he decided to pass away into parinirvana. So when we look at Buddha, how he began his life after he became a Buddha, he gave the first teaching and he talked about impermanence. And then at the end of his life, he concluded his teaching, again focusing on impermanence.
So that is Lanu Ganale, Lainata, Sawasum the Junsi Gusin, those Kanangaris.
And Lamrim treatises you find a particular kind of a meditation in impermanence, which is presented in a very structural form, and we talk about 3 key points and 9 supporting reasons. So, we have 3 main points and 9 supporting reasons, 3 for each main point, and based upon that structured meditation, one can develop recognition, understanding of impact of life.
다 손자다 못다고 공그레스 못다고 개체부 렌도스 다 손자 못에 오바 나라서 당다 땅지게 왕의 치네 땅 나라서 배 땅가 참말로 돼 최드로 매바다 땅가는 이배 땅지게 람배 따보 돼야 상당신 랑도 로데 아니 최소는 좀 못해야 땅지게 왕 조금도 왔어 손자다 못다고 공그레스
Impermanence is not something to be talked about, but it is something that we need to understand and meditate upon. We need to cultivate, in other words, recognition or awareness impermanence through meditational practice. That's important for all of us. What is happening with our life, if you ask, that is, all of us, every one of us, we are under the strong influence of grasping at permanence of life. So that grasping at permanence of life keeps on feeding the message, coming to us that, what, you're not going to die today. You're going to be fine this week. You're going to be fine, whatever. As if we are going to live ever. With that kind of a strong sense of permanence of life, what we find is often we don't have time to do practice because we think, okay, I'm not going to die anyway today, or anytime soon. Or because of this grasping at permanence of life, that we really don't, have this strong dedication and enthusiasm in our spiritual practice. It's kind of become, half-hearted, kind of a practice. So you can see how grasping at permanence of life is causing so much, damage, if you will, in us. And so we reflect upon and understand and cultivate recognition and impermanence of life and things, then that whole, that the grasp at the permanence of life will fall apart. We can crack it. And that's so important for our spiritual cultivation.
ran taparan se be tangsi ti ani ta ran le be mande be reta ran ka enza megiwi le saya tal ta kita ga taparan se be tangsi ti wang dogo yares.
Because of grasp the permanence of life, because we believe life is somehow permanent, it's never going to change and it's never going to end, then we find ourselves involved in lots of negativities and dynamic actions.
Sonja, te penan this one lang ring na. Mata ba gong de ya kan de gong bro sa ya teng do wes. Chen teng te na ale si chen dun tang sam kare sa na. This gan on the wa. Yu jin ju do cha ba te mata tem bi hlowen yins. Tang de wa le ngas khaw ma te ye yaga karse jiga ni yaga ni tonga ni gungan do sin ju do cha ba te ni ran la mata te ban si chen do te du chen te thong du chen ni ran la mata ba tem bi hlowen ji cha go res kan.
So the question is, how do we meditate on impermanence, life, and CBS? Of course, there are many ways to do that. As it was stated elsewhere, and Geshe quoted the lines from his memory. It's more like a poetic, spiritual, forms. Is that if you really care to look at how things are changing, especially the seasons, how the seasonal changes are happening, how the one season changes to another, then that also becomes our teacher of impermanence. While we might find a little bit of hard in California because seasons are seems to be working differently, but in other parts of the world there are 4 seasons. The spring goes into changes the summer into autumn into winter, and so these seasonal changes and things change with them are the manifestations of impermanence. They are our teacher of impermanence.
So ta ta ga na yi ge ben lotan dawa ane de dunchatan hyama shen dosinta jigido sta chama sanga tangbina ran tagana ige ta chagyo res.
And as we also know, the time is changing over time. When we think in terms of a year, right? Year is accumulation of months. Every month changes into the next month, and a month accumulation of week changes into the next week. And the weeks are constituted by days. Every day changes into the other day, and the day is constituted by hours. Every hour changes into something, and the hours are constituted by minutes and seconds. And you can see that nothing is still in a static form. Everything is in the state of flux, and changing all the time. Everything is our life too. Our life is not quietly and waiting for the things to change. Our life is changing every moment to moment. As a matter of we are bombarded by all the great examples of impermanence and change. When we watch the media, all the news about death and destruction and the killing and sick and all these things. We should not watch them as if like these things are happening to people. As if we are not going to, be part of that anytime. What these things are showing is that, life is full of opportunities. You're well one moment, you are terribly ill the next moment, you are fine now, you are dead next moment, and all these things are happening with everybody's life, and we are part of this whole thing happening. It's very important for us to be able to relate those examples of impermanence, those manifestations of impermanence and transitoriness of ourselves and our life. And then, of course, I think many of you probably like to keep albums of yourselves. Just in your albums, when you were in you were an infant, then you were a toddler or you were a teenager, whatever. Now say how much things have changed up to this stage in life. So all these things, maybe the things we see in our album, these records of our teacher of permanence of life.
Langa Kavana ane government was Naranzo here the Trinita Loma Yama Hajan Bagan Rodgers do the karma culture region. To say the karma and the second was the night so say here the telpat the night that means say maybe do the years.
So we all have to take the freeways. To go to work, to go to school, to go home, and to go to, grocery stores or whatnot. And if there is any blockage on the road, say detour, the road is blocked from this time to this time, we get frustrated. It's inconvenient because it's going to block our way to get to our destinations. Now the thing about our life, every split of a second, our life changes. And we are moving closer to death. There is no blockage on the way. There is no tour. You see? And but we are really seems to be not concerned with that at all. Our life is fleeting every moment, every split of a second. There isn't a one split of a second. Okay, there is a blockage in your life, and you can just take a rest here. We are just rolling to death. And there is no detour sign here, but we seems to be oblivious of that,
Chiwi Jesu, Lake another Jesu and Dogo Yoris, Sonza, Gabriel later that Cassis on the tongue. Come, Tamaran's big Yanta with your side, Chester, then this on the tongue is a time, so soon as open dark girly was.
So our life, with every split of a second, is getting closer to death. You see, there is no detour, there is no blockage, there is, nothing happening here. And once the death strikes us or the life comes to the end, that is not the end of the story. We must be reborn. So what determines our next life or the next rebirth is whatever karmas, good and bad, that we ourselves have accumulated. So it's very important for us to take time to investigate our life and find out, you see, what kind of karmic actions we have been accumulating. Positive, negative. So which one is more than the other? Are they being equal? You see, if we're really being honest with ourselves, look at that, probably we are accumulating a lot more negative karmic actions than ones. So that means, you see, we really need to do something with that. We need to purify ourselves negative karmas and keep on creating positive karmas if we want to have a bright future prospect of life, next rebirth. So metaphorically speaking, the Lord of Death or the Yama can come to get us anytime. Nobody can stop him. They cannot create a security system to block him away. There is no radar system to inform us that, oh, Yama is coming to you, get prepared. He just can come anytime he wants, see, and our life is constantly, approaching him. And there's no detour and no blockage, as I already mentioned to you. And so now we consider the fact that if he comes this very moment, do I have the confidence to say that just fine, just get me, because I can have a better record? Well, probably don't. See? And so if we have to die, before we really are able to get a chance to practice, cultivate spirituality, that would be a terrible tragedy and loss for ourselves. And we don't want that to happen. So that's how we need to communicate to ourselves. We need to get in that what we call intra-personal communication within ourselves, to ourselves, that I cannot let myself die without finding an opportunity to do practice. I do not have the confidence to say I'm just fine after I die, because I don't have that confidence. So when we look into those matters, now we can see a significant role recognition of impermanence or awareness impermanence play in our life, and when changing our life into very spiritually significant ways and in a positive way. When we meditate on impermanence, of course we have to think that, okay, one day we are going to die for sure. Well, that's a fact of life, and well, that's pretty good. But more important than to just kind of tell ourselves that one day we are going to die is we don't know when we are going to die. Time of death is uncertain. That is a fact of life as well. So that's the scary part. We know we are going to die one day, but it's going to be a long time away from now. We're okay. But that's not the case. Death can strike us any moment, and when we really think about that fact, it can really shake us from within, that I got to be prepared. I'm not prepared yet, and that is going to be a difficult time. So So when we meditate on impermanence of life and things, we also have to watch out for these other obstacles, things which are communicating to us in many wrong messages in our mind. Well, as we are meditating on the uncertainty of time of death, well, we might somehow, something inside us tell, what? Why do I need to worry about? I'm still very young and I'm cool. Okay? There's a message there. And then somebody who is kind of old, why do I worry now? I'm kind of a healthy old person, so my health is good. All right? Or there's somebody saying, there's all this medical technology advancement. I'm taking vitamins, B and C and D and whatever. And so I'm fine. All these medicines are helping to keep me fit. Well, those things are the things we need to address, issues, as we would say, counteract these wrong messages being signaled to us. Because we are meditating on impermanence, we really get grip on it as if it could happen right now. And am I prepared or not? That's how we need to shake ourselves from within to be able to bring about inner transformation. We can't let those wrong messages, sources to give a wrong message.
Kadampa Geshe Shokweni ne mataba chachojusta bego sasunze ke gomde na that ane during the Geshes that nimi konle ane pe chule kuya ka kuja ya we take do take risk kananta.
And great Kadampa Geshes have got this to say that early morning when you get up and meditate really well, effectively on impermanence, as if that it sends a chill in your bone. Then during the daytime, you will be a much better positive person. You find yourself engaged in many good positive actions. How about stopping there today?
Chundi Shawana is on Drubata. Getting to come to the agenda, Muntibi Gutota like Henny, Tujun Sota that maybe Hundu Yongshu.
Together we have accumulated merit this morning, participating in the teaching. Let us dedicate our collective merit for the flourishing of Dharma, the source of peace and happiness throughout the years. May His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all other great holy beings and masters live long and be successful in fulfilling their visions benefiting sentient beings. May spiritual communities throughout the world and spiritual practitioners from all traditions remain healthy, harmonious, and be successful fulfilling spiritual aspirations. May this and other world environments be free of all kinds of unwanted pain problems, and may beings find peace, happiness, prosperity, and spirituality.
Dona Magin Sinji Tamji, Dini Sinji Wallet on the Sanji Kumba Bujitobi, Jurchi Samashi.
Last but not least, we dedicate our collective merit for all kind mother sentient beings to be free from the fears and dangers of two types of mental obscuration, and maybe all reach complete enlightened state quickly.
Tenzin Dorjee kadi pega.
Test somebody again.
Tenzin Dorjee
You can.
다 군이마 가디 용게스 가면 넘베.
가장 카바시 샤벤 군이 카발링 되게 되게 단다 결람 좀.
네, 가서 군이 메게 칭이래. 이마 그 보아다 군주.
노노스케.
이거 먼저 메라 마죠.
노노스케.
아니 저 히델.
프로세스 그냥. I think cold season coming around, so if people maybe postpone their visit to Keshala, that would be very good. Thank you.
Then you can move and stand, okay? When you have time. To examine everything, you have to polish and polish. You can take time, okay? Not just in